In a dream, I met with the culmination of the idea of art. It was a painting of blue and green with holes cut out for human eyes to look through. I asked it what art is. It told me art is everything. My first ever college class was called Art Is.
Art is document, record, witness, private, public, tradition, defiance, reckoning, celebration, mourning, aware, historical, political, social, active, memorial, intimate, trace, repair, a map, a rend, a fissure, a corrective, a call, a response, a counter-narrative, questioning, demanding, protest, restorative, inclusive, innovative, imitative, and curious, and... When the poet Muriel Rukeyser wrote, "Art is not a world, but a knowing of the world. Art prepares us," she wasn't kidding. In this class, we will attend to art objects and engage in careful exploration of the confluences of art and our lives. We will begin to articulate how art prepares us, and for what, by considering expression that represents, distills, enacts, and speaks to us, for us, with us. Art that asks us to listen and teaches us how. Throughout the term, we will continually return to this description. Together, we'll refine it, revise it, rebuke it, embrace it, or whatever other verbs call to us. We will interrogate names and definitions and, at the same time, seek to articulate for ourselves, individually and as a group, the worth and value of art to and for us, individually and collectively. Art is not one thing, as you well know. So, can art ever be all of these at once? Need it be? How might our expectations or needs alter our engagement with art? How might our interaction with art offer us an approach for engagement with other aspects of our lives? Or, more to the point, our work this term will be, in part, about trying to figure out what work art accomplishes and what distinguishes art form from everything or anything else, including what distinguishes one piece of art from another. In this course, we'll trace how art speaks to and responds to and explores and interrogates and notes. We'll consider its relation to emotional and intellectual landscapes, to memory and perception, to familiar experiences and foreign ones, by considering works of art across a variety of media and genres. Primarily, we'll explore literature and the visual and performing arts from the late 20th to the current moment, work that asks intimate, difficult questions of our intimate, difficult times, work that expects or requires no answer.
It was run by my college advisor. She'd basically just give us things to experience, and we'd come back and talk about them, from dance pieces to 433 to photos of naked people covered in galaxies. Whenever we'd have to send in essays, her critiques on the essays were longer than what we wrote ourselves.
Monica was the first person I ever met when I came to Knox. I complimented her Sound and the Fury poster. We talked about the books I was reading, mostly just a copy of the Full Metal Alchemist manga I'd brought with me on the train to Galesburg. It was rainy that day, but she told me that was a good luck sign. I guess it was, because I did end up going to Knox after that student visit day. It's not often you take a course that really changes how you think about such a vast and important topic as art. Throughout the class, we spent a lot of time discussing our own definitions of art, and I think two major themes emerged. The first was the intent element. You know, the cobweb on the ground isn't art until somebody takes it and puts it into an artistic context, frames it or uses it as a sort of modern art museum piece. And the second was the audience element, that art is trying to express emotions to a particular audience or share your piece with someone else. I brought up the hypothetical that a drawing in a notebook that you don't show to anybody is still art. So maybe the audience can just be yourself. But still, I often wonder what the class would have been like if we'd taken it after 2020, in the AI apocalypse, I suppose. Because it seems to me that AI fails on both counts of our definition of art, having no intent to create a piece of art in an artistic context and no expression to get across to any particular audience. I don't know. Just something I think about.
A few years later, whilst still in college, I met with her about classes like how I normally did and told her about how one of my pieces made it into the college literary magazine, and she was excited to read it once it was published in a few weeks. She used to send weekly emails on Thursdays with upcoming art or English events on campus with a poem at the end. That following Friday, we had received an email that she died. In the class, I remember we could agree upon one thing. Art is political. We looked at Doris Salcido's piece, An Installation in Istanbul, where 1,550 chairs were placed between two buildings as a representation of anonymous victims of war, of mass graves. COVID was by no means a war, but I think of the stories of hospitals running out of room in their morgue freezers, and how our class was virtual, and how she most likely died due to long COVID complications. And I think of the chairs, those who died of an illness we've forgotten about but have not yet recovered from.
Finally, some notes about teaching and learning in art. Maybe it's ridiculous, this thing that we call teaching, and maybe it's just as ridiculous that many of us feel lucky to be in rooms that honor intellectual curiosity and rigor and the making and sharing of art. Maybes aside, here are some small truths. I believe in language. I believe in reading. I believe in writing. I believe in art. I believe in museums, performances, walking through a sculpture garden and gasping. I believe in surprise and awe. I believe in the present and the past and the future. I believe there are things I can teach you. I believe there are things that you can teach me, bend each other. I believe the classroom, in all its variations and limitations, is a holy, holy place. Most of all, I believe it a privilege to sit together discussing ideas, to be challenged by ideas, to be moved and made more curious, and where language remains the primary vehicle through which we learn to recognize our subject matter, ourselves, and each other. All this, coupled with these other facts, that we get to choose this time, this work, and in that choice, we respect this time and this work, often brings me to my knees.
The next Thursday, I opened my email and waited. Nothing ever came. I announced to my now suspended Twitter account about knowing no email would ever come and posted the last poem she ever sent. Despite it being a week since her passing, I somehow was one of the first to break the news online, despite our college sending out articles and the like. My Twitter wasn't a place for poets, but for a moment it became one. It was one of my most viral tweets. Replies and quote tweets from strangers about how they didn't know she passed filled my mentions. I didn't mean to be the bearer of this news. It felt insensitive that I accidentally took up that burden instead of someone closer to her.
This week's selection is from the dear Gerald Stern, lost to us now, from his Galaxy Love poems, with all the thanks for all the decades of poems. Galaxy Love. There's too little time left to measure the space between us, for that was long ago, that time. So just lie under the dark blue quilt and put the fat pillows with the blue slips on the great windowsill so we can look over them and down to the small figures hurrying by in total silence. And think of the heat up here and the cold down there, while I turn the light off with the right hand and gather you in close with the wrong. This week's poem, sent every Thursday and then some, during the school year to English department students and our many friends, includes announcements of upcoming readings, lectures, and other events hosted by the English department, or featuring members of the department. Of course, sometimes we just send a poem.
Later that day at my college's student senate meeting, I apologized to my constituents for not being prepared due to her passing, and cried. I didn't even want to go in the first place. I'd rather leave my chair empty. After it ended, posts on the college's anonymous forum told me I should end my life. She wasn't the only death on campus that year. Some trustees, staff members, and other professors also passed. Due to my position on the Student Senate, I was asked to host an event commemorating those who had left us. We spent thousands of dollars. It had spiritual life, campus life, counseling services, IT, grounds, and even the kitchen staff all help out. No one came. There exists a recording out there of me crying while giving a speech to a perfectly decorated room lined with empty chairs about my dead advisor. Sometimes I think about what art is. The next day in my Latin class, I was asked about how the event went. For a second, I considered bursting into tears and telling everyone the truth. I lied. I said it went fine. We never discussed it further. One of my friends suggested art is like cliff diving. You have to dedicate yourself to it, even if the landing hurts. I've never gone cliff diving, and I don't intend to. In the dream with the being of art, I asked about writing. It told me people don't generally see writing as art. My senior year of college, I met with a judge about a writing award I had won before they were to announce it. I asked him why my piece over everyone else. He said the same lines the past two judges told me when I won last year and 2 years ago.
Your writing just stands out over everyone else's. It's like nothing I've ever read before. The structure, the form, the voice, it reads like a poem. You look disappointed. Did you expect something different?
I told him I was almost disappointed because I expected something different. I guess consistency is good. Why should I expect something different? They always tell me it's like nothing they've ever read before. At least I enjoyed getting free food and being asked about my writing over being in class. I started writing a poem a day after she died, in her memory. She was a poetry professor. It's been about 2 years since she passed. I haven't even hit 100. In the dream, I asked the culmination of art why people value physical art over other forms. It told me because humans need something tangible to point to. Paintings, sculptures, photographs, drawings are easy. Poems are hard. The piece she never got to read was a weird one. When I submitted it to workshop, I got no feedback. No one said anything. My writing was too weird, too different, unapproachable. I was presenting to a room of empty chairs, except this time they weren't empty, but they might as well have been. That professor suggested I show the other English professors, particularly the ones focused on poetry, because they would be able to appreciate it for what it is. That's what all the English professors told me, because they all saw that I couldn't get what I needed from the other students. Even now, it still feels so isolating that the professional judges praised my work there and back, but my peers couldn't bother to share a word. How could my art connect so well with strangers when those closest to me couldn't even bat an eye? I asked my blue sky for anyone to define art. I didn't get any replies. By the time this uploads, my college will have deleted my Google account. All of my emails, essays, and proof of her digital existence to me outside of memory will be gone. In the dream, I asked the being about AI if it would ever replace human artists when it doesn't have human eyes. It said AI will never understand being human. I wondered if I would ever understand being human. I am one, but what does it mean to be one? Why can't I get it out of my head? The empty chairs, the empty chairs, the empty chairs, the empty chairs.
Our final assignment for Art Is takes us, in some ways, back to the beginning. In other ways, here I ask you to allow yourself to revisit some of the ground we've traveled together this fall, and to also arrive at a moment of temporary closure. A place where, upon your completion of this work, we might pause the conversation a while, gather ourselves, reflect and consider, then rest. If you need a specific prompt to help you get started, try one of these two. art is. To defend the worth of art is to honor and defend.
What is art if not capturing a feeling and begging for its existence to manifest physically in the power of your hands? And what is art if not asking to fill the empty chairs? And what is art if not fucking holding on? Elsewhere That Small by Monica Berlin. Contents.